pregnant wife catches millionaire on vacation with mistress. The ending is unbelievable. You will not believe what happens when a young, unsuspecting wife, pregnant and hopelessly in love, discovers her wealthy husband's secret getaway with a breathtakingly beautiful mistress. It's the kind of story that defies explanation. A millionaire who can afford to hide his tracks, a loyal wife who risks everything to uncover the truth, and a mistress who thinks she's got it all. As tensions rise and hearts break, you'll see betrayal, redemption, and jaw-dropping twists that seem too wild to be real. Stay tuned, because this saga will challenge every assumption you've ever had about love, loyalty, and the price of deception. Michelle Brown stood in the center of her immaculately designed living room, a faint tremor in her hands as she stroked the curve of her pregnant belly. The sun poured in through the panoramic windows, illuminating the plush couches, the sleek marble floors, and the tasteful decor that she had painstakingly chosen with her husband, Stephen Brown. Everything about their penthouse screamed success and style, the kind of success that often arrived alongside the relentless gossip and unwelcome scrutiny of the ultra-rich. And yet, for Michelle, it was just home. It was supposed to be the safe place where she could start the next chapter of her life, a chapter that included motherhood and the promise of a strong family bond. Even as she tried to maintain her composure, Michelle's thoughts swirled. She had caught wind of rumors that her husband, the charismatic millionaire entrepreneur Stephen Brown, had been seen boarding a private jet to an exotic location with a woman who wasn't her. At first, she dismissed it as nothing more than idle chatter from the tabloids or jealous acquaintances who thrived on stirring trouble among the wealthy. But then she saw the manila envelope on their dining table, discreetly placed there by one of her closest friends, Anna Kingston, a friend who also happened to be the personal assistant of Stephen's longtime business partner. Inside that envelope were photographs. Stephen and another woman, whose name appeared to be Sasha Morgan, strolling hand in hand at an exclusive Caribbean resort called the Jade Lagoon. The final picture in the stack showed them gazing into each other's eyes, locked in an unmistakably intimate moment. Michelle pressed a hand to her mouth, steeling herself to remain calm. Her pregnancy made emotional turbulence risky. She knew she had to keep a level head, not just for her own well-being, but for the baby's. With her heart hammering in her chest, she picked up her phone and dialed Anna's number. Her voice trembled as she asked for details, unsure if she even wanted the answers. Anna's voice was subdued, edged with pity. "Michelle," she said, "I'm so sorry you had to see those photos." The news started circulating around the office just a few days ago. People have been whispering. Stephen didn't exactly try to hide it from everyone except you. When I found out, I knew I had to tell you. Her friend's sincerity and the heartbreak in her voice were undeniable. Michelle hated the feeling of vulnerability that overcame her. She thanked Anna, hung up, then allowed a single tear to trace down her cheek before collecting herself. She wasn't just a grieving wife, she was the mother of Stephen's unborn child. She would find out the truth, and she would do it on her own terms. If the rumors were false, she could move forward with a clean conscience. If they were true, she would be prepared to confront her husband directly. The next day, Michelle recalled moments in her marriage that, in hindsight, might have been red flags. Stephen had returned from business trips with vague alibis of late meetings and unexpected delays. His phone seemed permanently attached to him, guarded by passwords that changed monthly. She remembered fleeting glances at suspicious text messages Stephen had always brushed off with a quick, dismissive explanation. Still, Michelle had always believed in the vow they shared when they were married in a lavish ceremony at the Redwood estate. She trusted him because, in her mind, trust was a choice. She had no desire to sabotage their relationship by turning paranoid or accusatory. In the world of the wealthy, especially for someone like Stephen, who made his first fortune in venture capital, by the age of 30 opportunists and sycophants lurked in every corner. Michelle knew there were countless women eager to attach themselves to a man of influence and money. But Stephen had always reassured her that he was loyal. "I'd be a fool to throw this away," he used to say, drawing her into a kiss. So Michelle had decided to believe him. Now, standing in the middle of a living room that felt far emptier than it had the day before, she realized she needed more than reassurance. She needed proof. She had to see everything with her own eyes. Gathering her courage, she made a plan to confront Stephen on neutral ground, away from the household staff and the looming presence of the city's paparazzi. She dialed his personal assistant's number, a woman named Claire Henderson, to ask about his schedule. Predictably, Claire informed her that Stephen was away on a business retreat in the Caribbean. Michelle asked if she could join him there, and Claire hemmed and hawed, eventually feigning ignorance. That alone was enough to confirm Michelle's suspicions. She decided to contact an old acquaintance, Lucas Grant, a seasoned private investigator known for his discretion. Lucas had helped one of Michelle's close friends navigate a messy divorce from a similarly unfaithful partner. He came highly recommended, though his services were notoriously expensive. But if there was anything Michelle had, it was money and a burning desire for the truth. She wouldn't have batted an eye at spending a fortune to protect her child's future. When Lucas arrived at the penthouse, he was the epitome of professionalism: crisp suit, well-trimmed beard, and a firm handshake. He took a seat on the sofa, his posture perfectly erect, conveying his unwavering focus. Michelle explained her situation, her voice heavy with tension. Lucas listened intently, jotting down notes in a small leather-bound notebook. By the time she finished, tears hovered in the corners of her eyes, but her voice was resolute. "I need to know everything," she told him, "and I'm prepared to go there myself." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Michelle, that might be risky," he said. "Given your condition, traveling might not be easy." She cupped her pregnant belly protectively. "I'll do whatever it takes. My baby deserves the truth, deserves a father who is honest. If he's not honest, I need to know what steps to take for our future." Lucas nodded, respecting her resolve. He promised to conduct preliminary surveillance, gather details, and prepare the ground for her arrival, if that was what she truly wanted. But as Michelle lay in bed that night, her mind swarming with apprehension, it wasn't just about a cheating husband. It was about betrayal, deception, and the heart-wrenching possibility that the man she had built her life with was someone she no longer knew. Days later, Michelle got the call she had been dreading. Lucas's voice was calm yet grave. "I'm at the Jade Lagoon. I've confirmed that Stephen is indeed here with a woman named Sasha Morgan. They're registered under an alias, but it's definitely him. I have photos, room logs, the works." Michelle's hands shook, though she tried to remain composed. "I'm coming down." Lucas hesitated. "Are you sure? It might be tough on you, physically and emotionally. This place isn't exactly a quick trip away. It's a secluded resort on a private island." Michelle's voice was firm. "Book me a flight, Lucas. I'll handle the rest. I'm not leaving my child's future to speculation." The journey to the Caribbean was longer than Michelle expected, fraught with tension and a swirl of conflicting emotions. She kept her departure a secret from everyone except Anna, whom she trusted implicitly. Anna helped her arrange a private plane. Being the friend of an heiress had its advantages. During the flight, Michelle stared out the window at cotton candy clouds drifting below. She recalled the early days of her relationship with Stephen, how charming he had been, how he'd built her trust brick by brick until she believed nothing could shake it. Now, she felt each of those bricks crumbling under the weight of what she had discovered. Upon landing at a small airstrip near the Jade Lagoon, Michelle was met by Lucas, who ushered her into a discreet SUV. "We'll head to a private villa I rented under a false name," he said quietly, his voice tinged with concern. "We need to keep this low-key. Stephen has connections everywhere." Michelle nodded. Her heart pounded in her chest, in sync with each bump in the road as they traversed dense, tropical foliage toward the famed resort. The Jade Lagoon was known for its exclusive clientele and their clandestine affairs. Nobody asked questions here, because everyone came with secrets they preferred kept under wraps. They passed the main entrance, a grand arch of tropical flowers, and a winding driveway lined with towering palm trees. Everything about this place oozed luxury, from the shimmering lagoon at its heart to the discreet staff who were well practiced in giving guests space and privacy. The sun was just setting, painting the sky in warm orange and pink hues. It was paradisiacal, the perfect backdrop for romance or betrayal. Once settled in the rented villa, Lucas spread out a series of photographs and notes on the dining table. Michelle braced herself to look. There was Stephen laughing with Sasha at one of the lagoon's private cabanas. Another shot showed them dancing in what appeared to be a beachfront party, his arms wrapped around her waist. The final image, the one that nearly broke Michelle's heart, depicted Sasha wearing a diamond necklace that Michelle recognized all too well. Stephen had once mentioned wanting to gift it to someone special. Michelle had assumed that someone would be her. She shut her eyes, inhaling deeply to keep her composure. "When is the last time you saw them?" she whispered. "This afternoon," Lucas replied. They'd been spending most of their time around a private bungalow at the far edge of the resort. "I have some audio recordings too, though they're mostly muffled. It's clear they're together in a romantic capacity." A lump formed in Michelle's throat. So it was real. The man she had promised to love forever was in another woman's arms, flaunting their relationship at this lavish haven of hedonism. She opened her eyes, a fierce determination igniting within them. "I want to catch him in the act," she said. "I want him to see me face to face so he can't deny what he's done." Lucas hesitated again. "Michelle, the first understand your need for confrontation, but remember your health. This could be dangerous for you and the baby." Stephen might not react well when cornered. Her voice trembled, though not with fear. This was pure resolve. He can handle it however he wants. "I'm not leaving without answers." The next day, Michelle disguised herself in a loose sundress, a wide-brimmed hat, and oversized sunglasses. Lucas accompanied her as she navigated the resort's pathways, framed by lush greenery and the faint sound of steel drums playing in the background. Her belly was more pronounced now, nearly 6 months along, but the loose fabric helped conceal her pregnancy from passing glances. They reached an oceanfront bar where Lucas had tracked Stephen and Sasha earlier in the morning. Michelle's heart hammered like a drum. She scanned the crowd, couples sipping cocktails, a group of well-dressed vacationers dancing near a DJ booth, staff weaving through the throng. Then she saw him. Stephen was leaning against the polished mahogany bar, wearing a casual linen shirt that highlighted his athletic frame. Next to him stood a tall, slender brunette in a white bikini cover-up, her long hair cascading down her back like a waterfall. Sasha. Michelle swallowed hard, her palms slick with sweat. There was Stephen, her husband, tilting his head intimately toward Sasha, whispering something that made Sasha laugh and place a hand on his shoulder. The moment was so ordinary yet profoundly earth-shattering. Michelle was torn between rage and despair. She reminded herself she had come here for answers. She moved closer, weaving between guests until she was just a few feet away. Sasha was the first to notice her. The brunette's smile wavered, her eyes darting nervously from Michelle to Stephen. Her expression shifted to confusion, as though she recognized the resemblance in Michelle's features from pictures of the happy couple that had occasionally surfaced in the media. Stephen turned to see what had captured Sasha's attention. When his eyes landed on Michelle's face, his expression morphed from relaxed contentment to sheer astonishment. In that split second, he looked exactly like a man with a guilty conscience caught red-handed. His jaw went slack, eyes wide, and he fumbled with the glass in his hand. "Michelle," he stammered. He looked at her stomach, hidden beneath her dress, but he already knew about her pregnancy. It was impossible not to. "What are you doing here?" She couldn't keep the tremor out of her voice. "I could ask you the same thing." For a moment, the entire world seemed to slow. Sasha glanced at Stephen, searching for cues on how to react, while Stephen stared at Michelle as though she were an apparition. The guests around them continued to laugh and dance, blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing at the bar. Then, a jolt. Stephen reached for Michelle's arm, as if to steer her away from prying eyes. "Let's go somewhere private to talk," he mumbled, voice low and urgent. Sasha, left behind at the bar, looked stricken. Michelle allowed herself to be guided down a secluded pathway lined with tropical flora. Heart pounding, she finally found the words she'd bottled up for days. "I believed in you," she said, her voice filled with hurt. "You told me you were at a business retreat. This is what your business retreat looks like." Stephen struggled to compose himself. "Look, Michelle, it's complicated. You shouldn't have come here in your condition." She flinched. "My condition? You mean being pregnant with your child? Don't you dare use my pregnancy as a smokescreen for your betrayal." Stephen's eyes flickered with shame, or perhaps anger. Michelle couldn't quite tell. He was a master at masking his emotions, a skill that had served him well in high-stakes negotiations. But now, cornered by his own wife, he fumbled. "I never wanted you to find out like this," he began haltingly. "Sasha and I, W.E., met at a charity gala a few months ago. Things just happened." She shook her head in disbelief. "Things don't just happen. You made a choice." Tears burned at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Was I not enough for you, Stephen? Was our unborn child not enough to keep you loyal?" He opened his mouth, but words failed him. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "It's just, I've been feeling trapped, pressured. The business, the baby, our lifestyle. I needed an escape." Michelle felt her hand tighten into a fist. "So you chose this escape," she said bitterly. "Look me in the eye and tell me if you love her." Stephen sighed. "It's not about love. It's about wanting something for myself, something that wasn't predetermined by a board meeting or by the demands of a marriage that's always under public scrutiny. You have no idea what it's like to." She slapped him before he could finish. The impact was muted by the cacophony of the nearby ocean waves, but the sting was tangible. "Don't you dare blame me for your actions," she hissed. "You think this marriage was easy for me? I've sacrificed my career, my privacy, my life to stand by your side. And now, when I need you most, you run off with someone else?" Stephen rubbed his cheek, anger mingling with guilt in his eyes. But before he could speak again, Michelle turned on her heel and stormed away, tears finally streaming down her face. She knew the confrontation wasn't over, but she needed space to breathe, to think, and to protect her unborn child from the roiling storm of emotions that threatened to consume her. Michelle spent that night in the rented villa, pacing the floor as Lucas watched from a respectful distance. She tried to eat dinner, but every bite felt like ash in her mouth. The confrontation had been worse than she imagined, not just for what was said, but for the glaring confirmation that Stephen was in deeper than a mere fling. The man she loved had chosen someone else while she carried his child. Early the next morning, Michelle received an unexpected knock on the door. Startled, she beckoned Lucas to answer it. Standing in the doorway was Sasha Morgan, her eyes filled with anxiety. She looked far less confident than she had the night before. Dressed in a simple sundress, her posture was tense. She asked if she could speak with Michelle alone. Unsure of her motives but too curious to refuse, Michelle stepped onto the villa's veranda, instructing Lucas to remain inside. A slight breeze rustled the palm trees overhead, carrying with it the scent of salt and tropical blooms. Sasha seemed uncertain how to start, fidgeting with the fringe of her dress. Finally she managed, "Michelle, the first one to say, 'I'm sorry. I didn't know you were pregnant.'" Michelle's face hardened. "Does it matter? Married is married. You knew he wasn't a free man." Sasha's eyes dropped. "Yes, I did, but Stephen made it sound like your marriage was effectively over. He never mentioned the baby until last night." A wave of conflicting emotions welled up in Michelle's chest. She studied Sasha, seeing not just a mistress, but a woman who had fallen for a polished lie. Or maybe Sasha was lying now. Michelle couldn't be sure. "Why are you here?" she asked, her tone clipped. Sasha hesitated. "Because I need you to know that I'm not here to break your family. I developed real feelings for Stephen, and I thought he felt the same. Now I see how messed up everything is. He lied to you, and he lied to me too." Michelle's voice was icy. "What do you want from me? Forgiveness? Some measure of absolution?" Sasha looked hurt. "No, he's spiraling, Michelle. His business deals are in a precarious state, and he's under a lot of pressure to secure a new round of funding. I think he's cracking under it. He told me he needed an escape, and that's what this was supposed to be. But I see now that this has gone way beyond a fling. It's become destructive for everyone involved." Michelle's nails dug into her palms. So that was Stephen's perspective. She and the baby were burdens, and Sasha was an escape. "If you really cared about not breaking up our family, you wouldn't have come here with him," she said, quietly, with an edge that made Sasha wince. Before Sasha could respond, a thunderous voice shattered the moment. It was Stephen striding onto the veranda, wearing a white shirt that billowed in the morning breeze. His face was contorted with anger and something akin to desperation. He shot Sasha an accusatory glare, then turned to Michelle. "What is this?" he demanded. "Are you two ganging up on me?" Michelle folded her arms protectively over her belly. "You brought all of this on yourself, Stephen. Don't you dare play the victim." Stephen's gaze flickered over Sasha, who looked like she wanted to vanish into thin air. Then he focused on Michelle, seemingly torn between contrition and defiance. "I never intended for this to blow up in my face like this," he said. "But you both decided to have a little meeting behind my back?" Sasha tried to interrupt. "I just wanted to," he cut her off, voice rising. "No, Sasha, you said you'd stay discreet. Now you're dragging Michelle into this. What were you thinking?" A tremor of fear passed through Sasha's eyes. "I'm not dragging anyone. She has a right to know." Stephen looked ready to snap. Michelle could practically see him wrestling with the situation, trying to salvage a sense of control. He pointed at Sasha. "We need to talk alone." Michelle felt her heart tighten. She was about to protest when she saw Sasha's lips compress into a thin line. Sasha appeared genuinely unsettled by Stephen's raging temper. In that moment, Michelle realized something crucial. No matter how strong or resolute Stephen seemed, he was on unstable footing. And it wasn't just about their marriage or the affair. Something deeper was unraveling inside him. "You can talk all you want, Stephen," Michelle said, stepping closer. "But don't think for a second that you can intimidate me or Sasha into staying silent about what you've done. I will protect my child, and if you try to bully me into submission, you'll find out exactly how much I'm capable of fighting back." Sasha's eyes filled with tears. Stephen looked at them both, then spun on his heel and stormed away, muttering curses under his breath. Sasha took a step backward, clearly shaken, then mumbled a quick apology to Michelle and hurried after him. Michelle watched them go, a disquieting sense of foreboding creeping in. Beneath the veneer of wealth and glamour, something dangerous lurked, simmering like a volcano about to erupt. She just hoped she could get out of this place with her sanity and her baby's safety intact. Back inside, Lucas approached quietly. I saw him storm out. "Are you okay?" he asked. Concern etched across his usually stoic features. Michelle exhaled, struggling to keep tears at bay. "No, I'm not. But I have to be strong." Lucas nodded, then pulled out his phone. "I've been digging deeper into Stephen's finances and business deals, like you asked. It's complicated, but it looks like there's more trouble than he's letting on, trouble that could affect you and the baby if his empire crashes." Michelle's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Lucas scrolled through documents on his phone. He's on the verge of losing a major investment that was supposed to fund his next venture. Investors have been spooked by rumors of misconduct, maybe personal or professional. We're not sure yet. If this next deal falls through, he's going to have liquidity issues. Enough to put your joint assets at risk if he's leveraged them. Michelle sank onto a chair, feeling suddenly lightheaded. All her life, she had believed Stephen was a financial wizard who always knew how to land on his feet. "He never told me," she said, swallowing hard. "I knew he was stressed, but I didn't realize it was that serious." Lucas placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That's why you hired me. I'll keep digging, but you need to consider your options. If he's lying about his affair, he could be lying about the state of your finances too." Michelle felt anger surge through her. She had trusted Stephen implicitly, believing he would always safeguard their future. Now it seemed he'd risked everything for an affair, for a misguided attempt at escaping responsibilities. "Keep searching," she told Lucas, her voice steely. "I want the full picture." That evening, the sky erupted into a watercolor painting of oranges, pinks, and purples. Michelle tried to find some solace in the breathtaking view from her villa's balcony, but the turmoil in her heart remained as fierce as ever. She dialed Anna's number, needing a familiar voice to anchor her. When Anna picked up, the relief in Michelle's sigh was palpable. "Tell me everything," Anna insisted gently. Michelle recounted the confrontation at the bar, Sasha's unexpected visit, and the ominous possibility that Stephen's business empire might be crumbling. Her friend listened quietly, interjecting only to voice her shock or to offer a comforting murmur. Finally, Anna said, "Michelle, you need to leave. Come back to the city. You're pregnant, and this stress is dangerous for both you and the baby. There's nothing more you can do there." Michelle closed her eyes, pressing her palm against her belly. "I can't leave yet, Anna. I need closure. I need to hear Stephen admit it all. And if I come home, it'll look like I'm surrendering or running away, and the tabloids will spin their own story. I have to do this on my terms." Anna hesitated. "I understand. Just promise me you'll be careful." Michelle promised, but a small voice inside her whispered that being careful might not be enough. The next morning, Michelle was awakened by a sharp knock at her villa's door. She groaned, swinging her legs out of bed, her belly heavy as she tried to rise. Lucas was already at the door, conversing in hushed tones with someone. When Michelle entered the living area, she found Sasha again, looking even more distraught than before. "I'm sorry to disturb you," Sasha began, voice trembling, "but I had nowhere else to go." Lucas eyed her warily. "What's going on?" Sasha glanced around, as though fearful of being overheard. "Stephen's lost it. He's raging about how everything is falling apart. Last night, he grabbed my wrist so hard he left bruises. He kept yelling that I betrayed him by talking to Michelle, that this was all my fault." She held out her arm, revealing dark finger-shaped marks. Michelle felt her heart skip a beat. She knew Stephen could be abrasive, but this was new territory. "Why are you telling us this?" Sasha bit her lip, tears threatening to spill over. "Because this is all spiraling out of control. I was prepared for an affair, for some secrecy, but not violence, and not with a pregnant wife involved. I'm in over my head. He's threatening to ruin me if I leave. He says he'll use his money and connections to destroy my life." Michelle glanced at Lucas, who gave a subtle nod. "It seemed plausible, Stephen, cornered and desperate, might turn vindictive. After all, reputation was everything in his world. But could he really go so far? Sasha continued. I don't want to be with him anymore, Michelle. The first swear. But I need a way out, some kind of protection. And I can help you. Michelle's eyebrows shot up. Help me how? Sasha reached into her purse and retrieved a slim voice recorder. I have audio recordings. Stephen confided in me about his business troubles. He also said some horrible things about you, about how he'd handle it if you ever found out about the affair. Michelle's stomach twisted. Part of her didn't want to hear those ugly truths. But if Stephen was indeed spiraling out of control, these recordings could prove valuable both legally and emotionally. Why would you record him? She asked, suspicious. Sasha's hands shook. Because I'm not stupid. I knew this affair could blow up in my face. I needed leverage in case Stephen tried to throw me under the bus. I never expected it to come to this, though. Lucas stepped in, his voice measured. We'll take those recordings, but we need to verify them. You understand, I'm sure. Sasha nodded quickly. Yes, of course. Michelle studied the younger woman's face, seeing genuine fear etched across her features. She wondered if Sasha was truly remorseful or just desperate, but her gut told her Sasha was sincere. All right, Michelle said softly, give us what you have. In return, we'll help you get off this island. Lucas can arrange safe transportation, can't you? Lucas nodded. I'll make some calls. A flicker of relief passed across Sasha's eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm done with him. Michelle forced herself to remain composed, even as a confusing wave of empathy washed over her. Sasha was, without doubt, the catalyst for this heartbreak, but she was also a victim of Stephen's manipulative and potentially abusive side. Let's talk somewhere private, Michelle said, glancing meaningfully at Lucas. The three of them retreated to a small study in the villa, locking the door behind them. Sasha handed over the recorder. There's also a digital folder on my phone, she said, tapping the device. I'll send it to you. Lucas pulled out a laptop and began transferring the files. Meanwhile, Michelle took a deep breath. Sasha, she said gently, do you know if Stephen has any offshore accounts or hidden assets? Sasha chewed her lip. He never shared all the details, but he did mention something about a shell company in the Caymans. He said he used it to funnel money away from prying eyes, especially from you, so you wouldn't ask questions about big withdrawals. Michelle felt her blood run cold. So Stephen was hiding large sums of money, likely to protect himself if things went south. It was one more betrayal, one more secret in a growing list that threatened to drown her. She steeled herself. We need that information. If Lucas can trace the shell company, it might give me some bargaining power, especially if Stephen tries to blackmail me or freeze our shared assets. Sasha nodded quickly, pulling up an email thread on her phone. He used an alias, James Kincaid, for that account. He had me send some documents to that name once. Lucas's eyebrows shot up. Send me whatever you have. This is big. Over the next hour, they combed through files, audio recordings, and messages, unraveling a tangled web of deception. Not only did Stephen appear to be embezzling, or at least shifting company funds into private accounts, but he had also forged certain documents that implicated some of his business partners. The more they uncovered, the more certain Michelle became that Stephen was in over his head, desperate, dangerous, and trapped by his own machinations. By the time they finished, Michelle felt both vindicated and profoundly sickened. This was the man she married, the father of her unborn child, a man who now stood poised on the brink of financial and moral collapse, capable of hurting anyone who got in his way. She pressed a palm against her belly, silently promising her child that no matter what, she'd protect them from this chaos. Finally, Sasha rose, her expression a mixture of relief and dread. "What do I do now?" she asked, her voice small. Lucas took charge. "I'll book you a private boat to the mainland. From there, You can catch a flight back to the States or anywhere you choose. Lay low for a while, change your number, and stay off social media. Stephen might come after you legally, but with these recordings, you should have enough leverage to ensure he backs off. Sasha's eyes welled up with tears again. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Michelle. I never meant to. Stop, Michelle said, raising a hand. Her voice was weary. Just go. Start over somewhere far away from him. That's the best apology you can give me. Sasha nodded, shoulders trembling, then quickly left to pack her things. As the door shut behind her, Michelle felt a strange weight lift from her shoulders. One piece of the puzzle was on its way out of her life. But the biggest challenge still remained, confronting Stephen one last time, armed with the truth and the leverage to protect herself and her child. That evening, Michelle received a text from Stephen. We need to talk. Meet me at the lagoon pier at sunset. Alone. She showed it to Lucas, who immediately frowned. It could be dangerous. He's desperate. Michelle's face hardened with determination. I'm going. He won't try anything reckless in a public area. There'll be other guests around. Lucas looked uncertain, but he couldn't dissuade her. Instead, he offered a compromise. I'll keep watch from a distance. If anything goes wrong, I'll intervene. Agreed upon their plan, Michelle found herself at the lagoon pier just as the sun began its descent. Candles lined the railing, casting golden flecks across the water. Soft music drifted in from a nearby beach party, but here it was oddly still. Stephen stood at the far end, leaning against a post, staring into the horizon as if the answers to his problems might be found in the setting sun. Michelle approached, her footsteps echoing on the wooden planks. He turned to face her, his eyes laden with fatigue and turmoil. Michelle, he started, voice low and thick with emotion. Thank you for coming. She stopped a few feet away, crossing her arms protectively over her belly. Talk, she said simply. He exhaled a shaky breath. I messed up. You have every right to hate me. But I need you to understand this wasn't about you. It was about me. I was drowning under the pressure of keeping everything together, our lifestyle, our public image, the new business ventures. And then the baby. It just felt like one more responsibility I wasn't ready for. Michelle's jaw tightened, but she forced herself to remain calm. So you thought having an affair, lying to me, and risking your empire was the solution? Stephen raked a hand through his hair. I know, it sounds insane. I guess I was just trying to feel alive again, to escape for a moment, but everything spiraled out of control. She studied him, her heart aching with both rage and a trace of lingering affection. It's more than that. You hid finances from me, set up offshore accounts, and forged business documents. You gambled our future and our child's future on your so-called escape. He blanched. How do you know? Michelle finished, arching an eyebrow. I have recordings, bank statements, messages from Sasha, and the research of a very good private investigator. You're caught, Stephen. He paled visibly, fists clenching at his sides. So, what are you going to do? Turn me into the authorities? Ruin me? She stared at him for a long moment, the flickering candlelight dancing in her eyes. I should, she said bitterly, but I'm thinking of our child. You're still going to be a father, whether you're behind bars or not. His face contorted with a rush of conflicting emotions, fear, regret, and maybe a flicker of hope. So you're giving me a way out? She let out a mirthless laugh. A way out. Don't misunderstand. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for our child. What happens to us, to this marriage, is another story. Stephen braced himself, as though expecting a final blow. Name your terms, he said, shoulders sagging. She lifted her chin. First, you'll sign over a portion of your assets to a trust in our child's name. Immediately. Lucas has the documents ready. Second, you'll come clean about the affair publicly or privately, but you'll tell the truth. No more rumors, no more tabloids twisting the story. And third, you'll undergo therapy. You'll get help for whatever it is that made you think all of this was acceptable. He sucked in a sharp breath, eyes wavering. And what about us? That depends on whether you can prove to me that you're willing to change, not just by talking, but by taking real, tangible steps. I'm not promising a reconciliation, but I won't shut the door completely if you show genuine remorse. Stephen seemed on the brink of tears. I am remorseful, Michelle. The first swear, I'll do anything. She turned away, gazing at the last sliver of sun dipping below the horizon. Then start by signing those documents tonight. Lucas is waiting at my villa. He hesitated, then nodded, running a trembling hand over his face. All right, he said quietly. I'll do it. They walked back together, the silence between them as thick as the humid Caribbean air. Michelle felt no triumph in his acquiescence, only a heavy sadness. Love, once so vibrant, had been tainted by dishonesty and betrayal. If this was to be the start of a new chapter, it began with the ashes of what once was. Back at the villa, Lucas had the legal documents ready. Stephen scanned them, his face grim but resolute, then signed on the dotted lines. When it was done, Michelle tucked the papers away, feeling a measure of relief. Their child's financial future was secured, regardless of how the tabloids or the courts might eventually spin the rest of the story. Her baby would be protected. Exhausted and emotionally drained, Michelle excused herself and retreated to her bedroom. She didn't invite Stephen in, and he didn't ask. That night, she tossed and turned, her mind a swirling storm of memories, good and bad. She recalled the early days of their romance, the excitement of building a life together, and then the bitter taste of the betrayal that had led them here. At dawn, Michelle woke to find a handwritten note slipped under her door. Michelle, thank you for giving me this chance to do right by you and our child. I know I don't deserve your kindness, but I will prove I'm worthy of it. I'm leaving you the Jade Lagoon so you can have space and peace. I've booked a separate room for myself at a different resort on the island, and I'm catching a flight back to the city tomorrow to face the board, the investors, everything. I'm truly sorry. I hope one day you can forgive me, Stephen. She read it twice, unsure how to feel. Was this a manipulative ploy to gain her sympathy? Or was it a genuine gesture of contrition? In any case, she was glad to be free of his presence. At least for the moment, she spent the remainder of the day resting, enjoying the tropical scenery, and conversing with Lucas about the logistics of heading home. Sasha, for her part, had already departed early that morning, leaving only a terse text of gratitude. The following evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a blaze of tangerine and magenta, Michelle found herself alone on the beach outside her villa. The sand was cool beneath her feet, and gentle waves lapped at the shore. This was her first moment of genuine solace since she arrived. She cradled her belly, whispering to her unborn child. She spoke of courage and love, of mistakes and forgiveness. She told the baby how fiercely she wanted to protect them from life's cruelties, how determined she was to give them a stable home, even if it meant raising them alone. Suddenly, the hush of the beach was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. She turned, expecting perhaps Lucas checking on her. But it wasn't Lucas. It was Stephen, breathless, eyes wide. "Michelle, I'm sorry," he gasped, bending over to catch his breath. "I got on a flight, but I couldn't leave without seeing you one last time." She tensed. "What do you mean you couldn't leave? Did something else happen?" He looked at her, a strange mixture of awe and regret etched across his features. "I realized how close I came to losing everything, my family, my integrity, my future. I know you don't owe me anything, but I had to tell you face to face that I'm going to fix my mistakes, no matter how long it takes. I won't run from this, and I won't run from you." Michelle felt tears prick at her eyes. The last rays of sunlight caught the glistening in them, making them shimmer. She wanted to be furious, to cling to her anger. But a small part of her, a part that had once adored this man, heard the conviction in his voice. Maybe it was too late for them, or maybe it wasn't. But right now, there was a faint glimmer of possibility. "I don't know if I can trust you," she whispered. Stephen stepped closer, cautiously. "I'll earn it back, day by day. I'll do whatever it takes." In that surreal, half-lit beach, they stood facing each other, two broken souls uncertain of what the future held. The waves continued their gentle lullaby, and for a moment, they let themselves simply exist in each other's presence. No lies, no secrets, just the fragile remnants of what had once been love. And then, in a twist that nobody, not Michelle, not Stephen, and certainly not any meddling onlooker could have predicted, Michelle felt a sudden, sharp twinge in her abdomen. She gasped, clutching her belly. Stephen rushed to her side, panic flashing in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked frantically. Michelle grimaced, breathing through what she recognized as a contraction. It was too early, she was only 6 months along. "Something's happening," she gasped, fear gripping her heart. Stephen scooped her into his arms, sprinting up the beach toward the villa. He shouted for Lucas, who dashed out, phone already in hand. Within minutes, they were racing in an SUV to the nearest hospital on the mainland. For hours, Michelle lay in a sterile hospital room, monitors beeping, doctors and nurses moving in controlled chaos. She was on the brink of premature labor. Fear and adrenaline coursed through her veins, and in that terrifying moment, Stephen was by her side, holding her hand, whispering words of encouragement. He refused to leave, no matter how many times the doctors tried to usher him away. Michelle clung to his hand, tears streaking her face as she silently prayed for her baby's safety. Miraculously, the doctors managed to halt the labor with medication and bed rest. By the next morning, Michelle was stable, though exhausted and emotionally spent. The baby's heartbeat was strong, a testament, perhaps, to the resilience that Michelle had clung to her entire life. Stephen remained in a chair beside her bed, his head in his hands, relief etched across every line in his face. When he noticed she was awake, he stood, gently brushing a strand of hair from her brow. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm not leaving." She searched his eyes. For once, she saw no trace of guile, no flicker of deception, just genuine relief and love, or something very close to it. In that hospital room, where life and loss seemed to precariously balance on a razor's edge, Michelle felt a shift. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was room for forgiveness. Or maybe not. Only time would tell. But for now, their unborn child still had a fighting chance, and so, maybe, did they? Conclusion, approximately 150 words. With a CTA, thank you for joining us on this rollercoaster tale of love, betrayal, and second chances. Michelle, pregnant and determined, discovered her husband's secret affair at a dazzling Caribbean resort, only to learn how deep his deceptions ran. Amid heartbreak and shocking revelations, she refused to let her unborn child become a casualty of his desperate behavior. In the end, the unthinkable happened. Michelle nearly went into premature labor, forcing them both to realize what truly mattered. Whether they find a path to forgiveness or remain worlds apart, one thing is certain: the future holds twists no one could have predicted. If this story moved you, shocked you, or left you craving more tales of incredible drama and hidden truths, please like this video, share it with friends who love a juicy story, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating real-life fiction. Your support means everything, and we can't wait to bring you the next unbelievable tale.